You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment while we bring on Facebook and get everybody in the room, get this party truly started in earnest. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, who you know, who you love. He is the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, much to our lament, one of our kind of emotional favorites, I guess, for lack of a better term, Demarcus Walker. We knew he wasn't going to get re-signed, barring some kind of a come from behind miracle, but he did officially depart. He defected. He signed with an AFC team. For the fans out there who missed it, recap what happened today.
Well, this deal is not officially official just yet, but Demarcus Walker took to, I believe it was Instagram, and announced that he's joining the Houston Texans, where he will reunite, of course, with Phillip Lindsay, the former Broncos running back. It sounds like it's a one-year deal, probably close to the veterans minimum, but as I wrote right there, the living legend is out of the Broncos building now. He has gone from Dove Valley, and a former 2017 second-round draft pick who the Broncos, Chad, wasted. In other words, the first couple years of his development, they tried him at outside linebacker. They moved him back to defensive end. But the last couple years under Vic Fangio, I mean, he really came on strong. Every time he was on the field, we remarked on this almost every podcast. Every time he's out there, he makes a play, whether it's a sack or a quarterback pressure or a tackle for a loss. He can do it all. And it's a shame that he never got a full ride in Denver, but I wish him well, and I hope Houston uses him the way he should be utilized.
Part of the problem was for Demarcus Walker, and one of the reasons why it was a huge head scratcher, including with our draft guys at MHH back in the day, which included Eric Trickle, which included Nick Kendall, Carl Dummler, was the fact that he was a formidable edge rusher at Florida State, but he was most definitely earmark him for hand in the dirt 4-3 defensive end. He was never the type that was supposed to stand up in a two-point stance and be an outside linebacker and be able to kind of move in space a little bit. And so the Broncos right off the bat, what's going on here? Right off the bat, I know, snap into a freaking Kit Kat. I don't even know how to get out of that. That's crazy. All right, I'm gonna
break off a piece of it, Chad.
Oh, I see. I had to stop the share screen. It's coming right back. But anyway, he was miscast out of the gates based on scheme. All right, the Denver Broncos at the time in 2017 were running Vance Joseph's 3-4 scheme. Even though Vance Joseph traditionally had been a 4-3 guy, he came to Denver because of the personnel, operated a 3-4. Walker was never a fit for that. And so what did they do at first? They're like, well, no, we think we might be able to stand him up and play him as an OLB. Didn't work out. He lost some weight, and that was kind of a combination, Zach, of actually trying to get into a physical form that was a little better fit for OLB that would allow him to execute those responsibilities a little bit better, but also combined with he caught a really nasty bug that stuck with him for quite a while as a rookie, lost a lot of weight, continued to lose weight.
That's right.
All right, you cut to 2018. He's still trying to kind of fit in where he gets in. The last stand of Vance Joseph, not much to write home about. But even then, Zach, when he was on the field, the very few opportunities Demarcus Walker had to see the field, he made plays. And that's the one thing about him that I'll always remember as in terms of his time as a Bronco. When he's on the field, he made plays. And then, as you said, when Vic Fangio got here and Vic said, look, if we're going to make some hay while the sun's shining with this guy, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal, bulk him back up. We're going to play him as a 5-tech defensive end and hope for the best. And it was the best play of his modest, relatively brief so far NFL career, even though it left us all wanting to see more. Doghouses as well. He ended up getting in doghouse with VJ, doghouse at a certain point with Fangio. So this is probably for the best, but you're always going to wonder what could have been.
Exactly, and I wonder what could have been with that draft class, because isn't Garrett Bowles now the one standing member left on the Broncos roster from 2017? I know Jake Butt is still hanging around there, but Garrett Bowles is the only notable player, and that'll go down as one of the worst draft classes, not just in Broncos history, but in recent NFL memory. I mean, they whiffed, and Moron, he pointed it out right here. I mean, look at these names: Carlos Henderson, Brendan Langley, Butt, Isaiah McKenzie, D'Angelo Henderson, Chad Kelly, and Demarcus Walker. They're all gone now. I mean, except for Jake Butt. So, yeah, I wonder.
No, Butt's gone. Butt's gone.
Well, I wonder what could have been with Demarcus Walker. I wonder what what could have happened if they didn't delay his development for one more year and play him at his natural spot, because he's always thrived. It's not just under Vic Fangio, Chad. We were making the same comments under Vance. Whenever Demarcus Walker was given an opportunity, whether outside linebacker or defensive line, he was making a play. So I wish him well in Houston, just like I wish Phillip Lindsay well in Houston. Two players the Broncos could have got more out of and chose not to.
For what it's worth, Jake Butt, as a restricted free agent this year, they opted, they didn't tender him, and that rendered him a straight free agent, unrestricted free agent. To my knowledge, he's yet to sign anywhere. He could still end up back with the Broncos, but with a new guy, pulling the strings in the front office, I doubt that's going to happen. But Zach, that 2017 class, good Lord, was that just a series of swings and misses? And it came close with Bowles too. I mean, he walked the razor's edge of it being a completely bereft class of any kind of impact players if Bowles doesn't turn it around last year. Because remember, they did not exercise his fifth-year option. If Bowles doesn't turn it around, he's signed somewhere else by now as well. So anyway, happy trails to Demarcus Walker. We'll see you around, big dog, living legend. Pour one out for him. He's now a Houston Texan. All right. Tonight, though, guys, we're excited because it is, of course, our weekly #Mile High Mailbag, because we are your football priests. Each and every week, we're here to offer you the absolution and answers to your burning Broncos questions, and we're looking forward to getting to those. Any questions you have, the super chats, the stars on Facebook, we're going to get to them all. Plus, Zach, we're going to have to, on the other side of matters of business, open up with what Woody Paige had to say about the Broncos' true plans at quarterback. But first, we got to say hello. We got to say thank you to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream podcast. Y'all know who it is by now, Manscaped. Guys, here we are rapidly approaching the summer. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, everyone lives in a different spot. Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a state of being. But it's mostly, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's starting to warm up, right? You're starting to see the sunshine. You need to, if you want to rock the whole, sun's out, guns out mindset, embrace that philosophy, you need to really embrace also Manscaped, number one in men's below the belt grooming. They've helped over 2 million dudes around the world take their male grooming to a whole other level. So if you delayed getting into the right shape, if you delayed kind of, taking self-care and hygiene as seriously as you probably should, fret not. Manscaped's here to help you get back on track.
And the thing is, Chad, as you well know, and a lot of guys who have used Manscaped now know, male grooming is not limited to just literally buzzing hair off your body. I mean, male grooming is encompassing the cleanup and the progress of your body and making it better and improving it and feeling better. And I want to demonstrate this product as I have all week. I want to kind of debut a new product every single week, but the Manscaped Crop Preserver Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant, I'm telling you guys, below the belt, we walk around outside, whether you groom, whether you're hairy or not down there, things happen for guys below the nether regions, and this Crop Preserver allows you to feel refreshed, feel better, smell better, and just live better in your daily life. And as you can see right there, your friends will thank you if you use this. Any product, though, of the Manscaped line, Chad, whether it's the Crop Preserver, whether it's the Weed Whacker, the Lawnmower, Manscaped is the way to go for male grooming.
We love it, all right, when our great community obviously patronizes and supports the sponsors who support our show. Shout out to John, who reached out with as a happy camper, as a very satisfied customer of Manscaped, providing us clear and direct evidence of his purchase under the code, all right, the checkout code HUDDLE. If you go to manscaped.com right now, you can pick of the litter, whether it's the Lawnmower 3.0, whether it's the Weed Whacker, the crop mops, the deodorants, the refined cologne, and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping if you use the code HUDDLE. And just like John, a.k.a. Primetime Puma on Twitter, your boys, that special lady in your life, they'll thank you.
Yeah, and there's no check in the mail for Puma. That's a whole organic, natural testament to the product, which we appreciate very, very much. But get 20% off, guys, and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code HUDDLE.
All right, guys, make sure you are connected with us on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, the main account at Mile High Huddle. Our great producer, Buona Beast, on Twitter at John K. MHH. My partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, and myself, at Chad and Jensen. Guys, there's many reasons to do that, all right? Keeps you abreast of what's going on with the show, breaking Broncos news, all that stuff. Plus, we like to keep the conversation going, and especially if you're one of – we like to be able to connect with every one of the members of our audience if we could in a perfect world, all right? But especially crucial for our Super Chat superstars, our big supporters, those on Mount Rushmore. Connect with us on Twitter. Most of you already have, but if you haven't, make sure you take care of that. Also, guys – have you become an official supporter on Facebook? If not, just navigate to our page, open up Facebook on your phone, Mile High Huddle. There's a big blue button you'll see at the very top that says Become a Supporter. It's $5. You click that, you immediately get access to our premium VIP video content featuring the flagship show, Kelberman's Corner, which is every Sunday at noon Mountain Time, plus the Trickle Zone every Saturday at noon Mountain Time as well. We're planning, as we've been telling you guys the last couple of weeks, we are quite far along actually in our plans for a membership rollout offering we're going to be doing on YouTube. So look for that. But in the meantime, if you want access to that, it's a different flavor. It's not like these long form pods. It's a little bit different flavor, but it's VIP premium video content. Go become a supporter on Facebook. And we do appreciate those of you who have heeded our call to action. And tonight, don't let me forget, I'm going to do it at the end of the show. We're going to announce the winner of this week's randomly selected person that's both following and liking the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. All right, we'll announce that here in a few more minutes. And listen up, guys. If you want access to that, for the opportunity to get the free hat, the free T-shirt, rep the brand, rep your team colors, it's as easy as both just like the page. All right, if you like the page, you'll automatically be following the page, and then that enters you into the drawing that we do each and every week. Check out the merch store, huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. All right, get a little piece of something to rep MHH. And if you're not in a position to do those things, hey, we're seriously thankful, grateful, and really excited just to have you with us. We do ask you subscribe. All right, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you like this video. Crucial on Facebook and YouTube. And then number 3 is the litmus test. If we're doing a good job for you, or if at the very least you do respect the effort, we might disagree on some of the things, right? Some of the key points. It's all good. That's why we love sports. If you respect the effort, share it out there. Help us continue to grow, and we are continuing to grow. Share it out there, like-minded Broncos fans, just like you. All right, Zach, got to get your thoughts on Woody Paige. I can pull up the article, but let me paraphrase him, and then I can direct quote him here in a minute. He basically said, look, I've been trying to tell everybody in Broncos country for months, Drew Lock's going to be the starter in 2021. They're going to add a backup. They're not done tweaking and fiddling with the quarterback position. But, Zach, according to Woody Paige, who is not often wrong on these type of things, the plan is Drew Lock for 2021. They're going to run it back one last year.
It's the same thing that we've been teasing for months and months now. And Woody Paige, I've noticed, depending on where you look, whether it be Twitter or Reddit, a lot of anti-Lock folks are quick to discount Woody Paige and what he's reporting, Chad, but he's as plugged in as anyone in the Broncos landscape. And what he says, I think, holds a lot of water. It holds a lot of weight, his words. And he's reporting, as he has the entire offseason, that Lock will be the guy in 2021. Woody Paige was the first person in the Broncos media landscape to poo-poo on the idea of getting Deshaun Watson. And how did that? I know the Deshaun Watson allegations right now prevented that, but he's been Woody Paige all along this offseason, absolute in his determination that Lock will be the starting quarterback. And what he said, I've said for months, like I just said, Lock will be the starter for the Broncos to begin the season. I haven't changed my opinion. He'll be backed up by a draft choice or a veteran, and nobody knows who that will be, including the Broncos. Chad, I think Woody has watched the podcast for at least a couple weeks now. It's all those points are the same exact points we've been saying. It's more than likely Lock as the starter with either, Nick Foles behind him, Teddy Bridgewater behind him, or a Kellen Mond type behind him. But no one, including George Paton in the Broncos front office right now, knows who that guy will be or when they will acquire him. So I think this is par for the course for this offseason.
If the Broncos draft a quarterback, I think the earliest it's going to be, this is my prediction, would be late day 2. I think they're going to end up finding because I'm sure there are some coaches or some members of the front office that aren't 100% convinced or 100% comfortable rolling again like the Broncos did last year with Locke in terms of depending on him completely. And with Jeff Driscoll as your backup plan last year, in a very untested Brett Rippon, it was a dangerous gamble, and the Broncos rolled the dice and ended up kind of blowing up in their faces because Locke got hurt in week 2. But nevertheless, there probably are some people in the building that would like some insurance. And I still think that insurance, again, it goes back to the notion of, do rookie quarterbacks help NFL teams win in a general sense as rookies, all right? More often than not, way more often than not, the answer to that question is a resounding no. So if you're going to continue to tweak the quarterback position and your priority is fail-safe, a veteran stopgap, a guy that could come in and play a quarter of the season if Locke gets hurt and keep the ship afloat, I'm sorry that, Vic Fangio's got to win now. He knows a quarterback in the draft is probably not the best option to help him do it. Never say never, and there are no absolutes in football, but the best bet's a veteran. And that's why I keep looking at the guys that are still out there. And honestly, it's the trade block guys that are speaking to me the most right now. As you mentioned, the top 2 candidates, Bridgewater and Foles. That's what I predict. And I know a lot of Broncos fans are going to be disappointed in that. I do think that Trey Lance and Justin Fields, one of those guys is going to drop. And I think one of those guys will be right there in the Broncos' lap if they want to take a swing. It's probably going to be Trey Lance. I don't think they'll take him. I think they run it back one last time with Drew Luck.
There's one more name that's now available after today, and that's Kyle Sloter, who was cut from the Raiders this afternoon. So if the Broncos want to rekindle old flames with him, I'd be more than happy to cut Jeff Driscoll right now and sign Sloter. But this is what we've been saying. It's that George Paton or those in the Broncos building, maybe even John Elway, who I'm sure has an advisory role with George Paton being above him for this season, they have a lot more confidence and faith in Locke than those outside of the building, especially the fan base. So I think Paton has determined, unless his guy, and we don't know who his guy is in the draft, unless that guy, could be Zach Wilson for all we know, unless that guy falls to him at number 9, I think, like you mentioned, he will run it back with Locke and use that pick. Might move down, might stay at number 9. He'll use that pick to address another area on the roster. If he wants to help Vic Fangio win this year, Chad, help the defense. A quarterback's not going to do anything for him.
Guys, shout out to our superstars on Facebook, including Randy Jones. We appreciate you, my dog. Brad Murdoch, super stud. And an MHH bona fide Mount Rushmore superstar that really was, Zeus McPeak has been a catalyst to, what's up, Stu, to, what we discovered as a real opportunity to cultivate a community. Zeus, believe it or not, some of you might not have been with us long enough to remember this, but Zeus was a catalyst. He was a guy that helped the scales fall off our eyes. And we realized, man, what's possible on YouTube? This is really fun. We need to start dedicating more of our time to YouTube and our streams and all that. And Zeus, honestly, it was indirect. I don't think he necessarily meant to be such a big influence and such a big inspiration to us, but he most definitely was. So always great to see Zeus in the house. Love you, bro.
The founding father of the podcast. And I feel like, Chad, he really, like you said, set the table for what Super Chad and the podcast has become. So, Stu, we owe a lot to you. And it's true, you tug at our heartstrings with your generosity and your support. Thank you so much.
Give our best to the fam.
Yes.
And we'll see you soon. And any topics you want us to get to, you put it in the chat, Zeus. Anthony, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Been a minute, indeed. Great to have you back in the chat. He says it's been a whole month probably. I don't know how long since I caught a live pod. Locke is still my guy. Let him hate. # prove the haters wrong. And there really are some haters, man. Every once in the blue moon, I'll turn on and listen to some of our competitors out there in the Broncos media landscape, whether it's the legacy media people on radio, whether it's the legacy people podcasting, whether it's TV, whether it's some of the competition out there in the podcast landscape. Zach, there's almost no people. You and I are almost the singular two voices, all right, in any way, shape, or form, really championing the idea of bringing back Drew and running it back, I should say, one last time. And it's not because we are some, head over heels suckers for Drew Lock. It's because we honestly believe, based on what this draft is, based on the current situation with the coaching staff, you chose to keep Vic Fangio, you chose to keep Pat Shurmur. It's in the team's best interest to give it one last swing at the table. And another big factor, Zach, that we don't talk about and emphasize, I think, enough on this show relative to our opinions on Locke is the fact that the Broncos have really gone this far with him. It takes time, it takes TLC, it takes development, it takes sacrifice for teams to develop a young potential franchise quarterback. And the Broncos have finally put in that 2 years, 2 full seasons of that investment in Drew. Now's the time when traditionally that starts paying a dividend. You can't move off him quite yet. One last swing at the plate.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, our last name, Chad, isn't Locke. I mean, we really don't have a personal, horse in this race. It's professional, and we have our interests for sure, and our favorites and what we think is best for the team. That's our opinion, and we'll keep giving that opinion. But the Locke slander that I see on social media, even today, I believe it was Pro Football Focus, and them being completely unbiased, as we all know, they put out a stat that I believe Jerry Jeudy dropped the most catchable balls from his quarterback, or the quarterback was responsible for the most drop passes of Jerry Jeudy's. And you should see the memes that came out, the GIFs that were posted, the insults at Drew Lock. When if you watch the tape from last year, Jerry Jeudy was just alligator arming most of those passes. He wasn't even in the right spot for some of them. He was running the wrong route, turning the wrong way. And also, it's quick that people forget Drew Lock's injury that last year was to his throwing shoulder. So I guarantee you that may have impacted his ball a little bit, but don't tell the Lock haters that, Chad. Those are all excuses.
If you guys go and look at Jerry Jeudy's reception to target ratio, it is god-awful as a rookie, all right? Some of that had to do with the quarterback play because Drew was up and down at times. But most of it, I'm sorry, this is PFF trying to find the hole in the boat and then trying to assert that and sell it to their audience. Jerry Jeudy, you guys, look, do you watch football? Do you pay attention to what's happening? You don't have to be an X's and O's, wizard. You don't have to be a bona fide film expert or evaluation guy. What do your eyes tell you? How many of those drops from Jerry Jeudy that you can remember last year? And go back and watch the film. NFL Game Pass is open to all. Go back and watch it. How many of those dang well should have been caught, if not for Jerry Jeudy stepping on his own you-know-what, all right? And then you want to blame Drew Lock. And it's this type of stuff that feeds into the upswell of negativity, not only on a national scale, but even at the local level that is, feeding these confirmation biases that already exist on Drew, these preconceived notions, and it just exacerbates it. And we're literally – the Huddle Up podcast is virtually the only outlet out there trying to balance those scales out.
Yeah, we're the sanctuary podcast for Drew Lock. And a couple things here, Chad. Anyone who wants to put blame on one party or the other, go back and watch the Patriots game from last year. When Jerry Jeudy he dropped 2 touchdown passes. He was dropping everything that was coming to him. Also, that stat did not specify the quarterback. The Broncos had 3 different quarterbacks last year. It wasn't all on Lock, but you know that the anti-Lock folks run with that rhetoric. And finally, why did they have an eye emoji next to that? It was almost like they want to be divisive. They want to hammer it home that the Broncos quarterbacking situation, that they have this stud wide receiver prospect and he's going to the wayside and they're wasting him. No, he was as much of a culprit, as complicit in his struggles last year as the quarterback play.
Yeah, poor Jerry Jeudy languishing in Denver, if not for better quarterback play, right? Michaela, the Duchess of MHH, jumping in. So consistent. We appreciate your support, yes. Michaela. Love you. You're a bona fide superstar. She says, I wonder what Chad Kelly could have turned into if he wasn't a basket case. He looked good. Yeah, that last preseason, that whole training camp of 2018, the Case Keenum year, man, he came in and he just put Paxton Lynch in the dirt. He made John Elway confident enough just based on the, looking at the contrast. Like, here's Chad Kelly, who hadn't played football for about 2 years. By the time he hits the field in 2018, And Paxton Lynch, our first round draft choice that we've invested some TLC into, I mean, it was polar opposites. He lit it up in the preseason for the most part. I mean, he wasn't like crazy, but he played very, very well. And he was about to get his shot when he actually, made the mistake of getting a little too tipsy or whatever he was on, or what was wrong with him. I don't know. I think we can at least say for sure, based on the reporting, he had a few things to drink. But when he made that fateful blunder, the Broncos, man, they were like a week, maybe two away from saying, look, we tried that with Keenum. It's not working out. Kelly, let's see what you can do. He was this close to his true opportunity. And this, I mean, look, I don't care who you are and what position you play, Zach, you're never going to get that prime opportunity, that prime window to really storm on to the stage in the NFL and really kind of carve yourself out a place in the league. It's always going to come with your original team with a few exceptions. There are some, all right. Sometimes players like Shaq Barrett, for example, got his start in Denver, modest success, goes to Tampa, takes it to a whole other level. There are those exceptions that prove the rule. He was about to get it, Zach. He was this close, all right? Former Mr. Irrelevant, beat Alabama. I mean, that was his big claim to fame, right? But he beat the fact that he was Jim Kelly's nephew and the fact that he beat Alabama in college. They were this close to giving him the keys and seeing how it looked, and then, boom, blew up in his face.
I'm just laughing to myself because I'm recalling the story. I remember reporting on it, Chad, back for 24/7, and he got drunk. Supposedly, this is all alleged. He got drunk at Von Miller's annual Halloween party and then randomly walks into a person's house and sits down on the couch and gets chased out with a vacuum cleaner. I mean, you go from potential starting quarterback in the NFL to that. I mean, you talk about irrelevant, Chad, you're done after that. And it's a shame. He had all of the talent in the world, and Chad Kelly embodies the expression, $1 million talent, 10-cent head.
Yep, swag. El Bronco, thank you for bringing up this topic. The other scuttlebutt from today was Mike Garafolo of NFL Network reporting that the Broncos, we've been saying, hey, keep an eye on DaeSean Hamilton. He's a potential trade asset for the Denver Broncos, but we weren't holding our breath because it didn't really – what value did he have? Did he have value on the trade market? And now we know that based on this reporting, there is some value there. If there wasn't, teams wouldn't be calling the Broncos asking about DaeSean Hamilton. And Mike Garafolo reported today that not only that's been happening, but basically saying, look, it's probably going to be sometime between now and the draft. If not during the draft, DaeSean's going to get dealt. And Zach, that's probably for the best because, yes, he emerged from Penn State as their all-time leading receiver. The kid had some chops. He was known as a route runner. He was known as an elite route runner for what it's worth. And even though he had some a solid connection with Drew in 2018, he was asked to start down the stretch when the Broncos had traded away Demarcus. And then Emmanuel Sanders got hurt. And then it was him and Cortland Sutton had to start the last quarter of the season. And Cortland was taking on all that, focus in the passing game from opposing secondaries and defensive coordinators. And that kind of freed up DaeSean to kind of make some magic. And he had a couple of decent games. And then Drew came in the following year down the stretch. They had a little success together. But the Broncos obviously have looked past him. I mean, the biggest message that was sent on how do the Broncos feel about DaeSean Hamilton, well, we're going to go ahead and draft wide receivers back-to-back to open the 2020 draft. At open and close, shut. It's that was the writing on the wall. So this would definitely, I think, be for the best, not only for the Broncos, because now you got Tim Patrick, but also for the player.
Bye. I mean, I see DaeSean Hamilton as having no value in this offense. I mean, he's a possession receiver, Chad, but he's not a possession receiver like Cortland Sutton's a possession receiver. He isn't a jag in that sense. He's not overly fast. He's not overly tall. His hands aren't overly good. He's not this Marvin Harrison level route runner. So I don't really know what value he has in the NFL. The only thing I can think of is the value of his draft pedigree, being a fairly high pick, 4th round pick, coming from Penn State, coming from a pro-style offense. He was billed for his route running, but I didn't see anything overly impressive with that. So I think a team that needs a receiver, like desperately, they would give up a conditional 7th round pick, if that, for him, and I would gladly take it. I mean, this is a guy who I didn't want to overtake Tim Patrick. And I'm so happy the Broncos decided to put all their investment, relatively speaking, into Tim Patrick, because as possession guys, Chad, he's a lot closer to that Cortland Sutton scale than DaeSean Hamilton is, and I'm not going to miss him at all. I think he messes with the chemistry of the offense, and I think the younger guys, namely Tyree Cleveland, will benefit from Hamilton's departure.
And Tyree was impressive at a couple of points.
Much more
last season, especially in that season finale in the first half. Another good case of, breaking out in one half and then disappearing in the other. Albert Knoppers, one of our longtime superstars and a great supporter on Facebook, jumping in with a question, Zach, what will happen next week during the draft? So this is a pretty open-ended question, but let me amend it just a little. If you had to put a bold prediction, not necessarily a player, but a position, a maneuver, what do you predict the Broncos do on, April 29th? So we're 2 weeks from, it's not next week, it's the week prior or a week after.
I actually have an exclusive report. I have some information I want to share with the Broncos on our podcast. The Broncos are going to make a draft pick. They're going to draft a player next week. That's my bold prediction. Yes. And we will, seriously though, I think they will take a non-quarterback. If we want to make it bold, gun to my head right now, I'm with Chad. Whether a quarterback falls to them or doesn't fall to them, I don't see them trading up for one. I think it's even more likely they move back in round one than trade up for a quarterback or even acquire a quarterback. So Albert, right now, we don't know what's going on. I don't even think George Paton knows concrete what he wants to do in the draft come April 29th. But I think bold prediction-wise, non-quarterback in round one.
If I had to place a bet on it, right, gun to my head type deal, I'm saying that the Denver Broncos, and it depends on how the board falls. It depends on which non-QB prospects, the true blue chip guys, may or may not be there at pick 9. I think they trade back. I think he tries to package something with a Washington or New England or a team that's just coveting a specific prospect, trades back, still takes a good player, right, a good player that could be blue chip, somewhere in the mid to late teens, early 20s. That's my bold prediction for what it's worth, Albert. Burn the Guitarist, a.k.a. Zachary. Good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. And if you ever want to come on the show, man, hey, the invitation's out there. Let us know. He says, hey, guys, I'm liking our roster. Much excitement for next year. Yeah, dude, we think about how geeked we were last year about this team and just the potential that they had, right? The Denver Broncos, if not for so many stupid exterior, weird, outlying problems that occurred that were so unique to that just horrendous 2020 year that it was for humanity at large and the Denver Broncos, who knows what could have been. But now, Zach, not a lot has changed. Like if you look at, garbage in, garbage out, ging out, the players who've come in, the players who have left. The players who have left, with the exception of Philip Lindsay, maybe Demarcus Walker, they're +3. They've brought in and gained more than they've lost. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for them. And I think with George Paton pulling the strings as far as the draft is concerned, there's no telling how many more arrows can be added to this quiver by the time you get to training camp. And from there, you just got to hope and pray for two things. One, a little bit of luck regarding the injury bug. And two, that Drew Lock does not fail to launch. And if that happens, this is a team that can win some games for you, Broncos country, in 2021.
Lots of games next year if those things happen. And, you could break it down, Chad, by a position-by-position basis. In the backfield, there is young or veteran talent at every single spot, and I'm talking non-quarterback. Melvin Gordon in the backfield, the wide receivers that we know, the tight ends that we know, the offensive line has Bowles, they have Reisner, they have Cushenberry, Juwan James, cross our fingers, and that defense, Chad, from the defensive line to the linebackers, retaining Von Miller, bringing in Fuller, bringing in Ron Darby, bringing back Kareem Jackson, bringing back Justin Simmons. This defense is loaded to bear. And if they just get decent play, competent play, average play, surface level play at quarterback, this is a team that shouldn't be in the playoffs. They will be in the playoffs. I know we said it last year, but you talked about those extenuating circumstances, Chad. They weren't excuses. They weren't just outright lies. We're not theorizing this. That was reality. And we're not going to have to deal with those same realistic scenarios this year. So I think given a fair playing field with an average quarterback play, average, obviously the better, the more games they win, the better they play. But average quarterback play. This is a playoff team, considering the talent level of the roster, and it's a credit not only to George Payton, but let's give credit to Elway as well, Chad. The last couple of years, stocking those cupboards through the draft, especially.
Gabe, a newer name on Super Chat, jumping in. Gabe, welcome. Thank you. Make sure you connect with us on Twitter. He says, what do you guys think if the Broncos were to draft Lance or Fields and use either of them to trade for Deshaun Watson if he suits up, or if his suits were to clear up? Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. I mean, dude, that is so far outside the bounds of the plausible at this stage, Gabe. Even if Deshaun Watson didn't have the legal pitfalls that he's currently trying to navigate, the idea of, I mean, I can think of 2 instances where something even remotely similar occurred in NFL history. That's how rare it would be. And that is the Baltimore Colts drafting John Elway, knowing that they were then going to turn around and trade him. And then, of course, the San Diego Chargers drafting Eli Manning at pick number 1 in 2004, knowing that they were going to trade him. The Giants drafting Phillip Rivers and then that swap. It's so rare. It's so rare. But, who knows, man? It's the NFL. Anything's possible, I guess. But I just don't see that as being viable.
I think the AI in Madden would decline this trade. It's very implausible. Why would the Broncos do it? I mean, you can argue that Trey Lance or Fields, they have higher upside, a higher ceiling in the NFL than Deshaun Watson, whose ceiling I think we've seen by now. So why would the Broncos flip that quarterback and also draft picks on top of that, picks plural, for someone like Deshaun Watson, who may or may not even play this season? I think he'll end up on the commissioner's exempt list for his allegations. So no, Deshaun Watson, that ship sailed a month ago when all these things first came up. It's either Drew Lock or a rookie this coming season.
All right, we got David Kilgore, one of our Mount Rushmore superstars. We had him on the show, I want to say 5-6 weeks ago, something like that. It was great to get to meet David face-to-face, so to speak. Appreciate you, my friend. And seriously, that level of generosity, I mean, it just means the world to us. Thank you. It allows us to continue to bring you this content on a day in and day out basis. So appreciate you, DK. He says, one thing I disagree with you guys about is that if Denver goes with Locke and he does not pan out, there really isn't a QB coming out in the 2022 draft that's worth a crap. What then? We need to get a QB now, basically, while there are QBs to be had. So he's saying, hey, man, relative to the quarterback position, got to make hay while the sun's shining, because the weather forecast for 2022, it's looking overcast at quarterback. Let me tell you something, though. Again, David, I got to remind you something. You got to beware of succumbing to panic, all right? Because think about where the draft conversation for 2021 was this time last year. No one was talking about Zach Wilson as a first-round quarterback.
Right.
No one was talking about Mac Jones as a first-round quarterback. And frankly, no one was quite yet even talking about Justin Fields as a first-rounder, let alone Trey Lance. It was all about Trevor Lawrence. That's the only guy. They're like, yeah, look ahead. Trevor Lawrence going to be number 1, and then, we'll kind of see how it shakes out. Dude, that's just the way it is. I can promise you right now, quote me on this, all right? April 15th, 2021. By the time the 2021 college football season is in the books, there will be at least 2 quarterbacks who emerge from that season that will be highly coveted, bona fide, top 10 level quarterback prospects. So don't give in to the panic of feeling, man, got a knee jerk, got to move now, because you never know. Don't give in to that.
Your point is the same point that I was going to make, and the same point that we do make when we get this question is we don't know the quarterback prospects, because there's always some that come out of nowhere to lead the field every single season without fail. And not only the first-round guys, but even guys like Kellen Mond. I mean, this time last year, who saw him as being, a borderline fringe day one talent? I certainly didn't. And the Broncos, Chad, there's also a misconception that they have to draft a first-round quarterback. I mean, we all know about the first-round guys and their pedigrees and this and that, but you talk about Dak Prescott, 4th-round pick. You talk about Russell Wilson, 3rd-round pick. Tom Brady, 6th-round pick. They're not necessarily having to get a quarterback in the first round. So if they run it back with Locke this year and he bombs and they go into the draft next year needing a quarterback, it doesn't have to be a day one guy. But there will be prospects on their big board that we don't know right now.
It's kind of crazy to think that 3 of the quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowl in the last decade were guys not drafted in the first round. Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles. crazy to think. Now, those guys are the outliers, and Tom Brady is the outlier amongst all outliers, right? But still, it's a good point, all right? Real quick, before we grab Chris, I just want to keep him up there. I just want to give a quick shout-out here. I'm getting an update on the stars on Facebook. Jeremy, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. Gary, you're so consistent, brother. Really appreciate you. And then, of course, Randy, Brad, and Zeus. Love you guys.
Thank you.
All right, Chris P., what's up, dude? Good to see you. You need to create a Twitter account, my dog, because I look for you every time you super chat after the show to tag you and give some thanks, shout you out. And there's a billion Chris P's probably on Twitter. So reach out, create an account, or if you already have an account and maybe you're already following, do one of these and say, hey, guys, it's me, Chris P. from YouTube. We want to follow back and keep tabs. He says, howdy, just happy to be here. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Chris.
Jeremy on Stars on Facebook. Tim Patrick is better than Jerry Jeudy. I think Tim Patrick was better than Jerry Jeudy last year. I'll go with you there. I'm not going to say he's better than Jerry Jeudy on a macro sense or the ceiling or whatever. But, hey, man, Timmy P, he defied every and all expectation last year. That was a guy that came out of the woodwork when Cortland Sutton went down week 2, and you're like, well, hey, at least you got Jerry Jeudy and a hamstring banged up KJ Hamler. Well, it turned out to be Tim Patrick was the failsafe. He's the guy that really kind of helped the Broncos keep those chains moving when they needed to.
TP is deserving of a starting job somewhere in the NFL. Obviously, maybe not with the Broncos. They have the receivers, but, I mean, this is a number 2 guy, a prototypical consistent, reliable possession guy, a mini Cortland Sutton. That being said, though, Jerry Jeudy's ceiling just dwarfs that of Tim Patrick. So I don't think he's better. I think his short-term floor, like you said last year, Patrick was better. But overall, the course of their careers, if Jerry Jeudy meets his ceiling, I mean, it's massive.
Also, I'm trying to think, has Tim Patrick dropped a pass? I mean, I'm sure he has, but this is a pretty reliable receiver. In the shop with Willie. Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. Going to be on the show. What did we say? We talked about this today on Twitter. Going to be on the show March 12th. March 5th. Cinco de Mayo. Good to see you. We look forward to chatting with you then. He says it's been clear for some time that there wasn't a clear and obvious upgrade. So Locke would be the guy. Shout out for John, Bona Beast. Also, a stallion, a rooster, and a device meant to keep doors shut and barred from entry.
You remind me of Waj, who the NBA reporter, he couldn't tip the picks during the NBA draft, so he had to use different names for drafting. That reminds me of, you're going to come up with the most ridiculous names for a lock and a door a couple pods from now.
The Queen saying hi. Good to see you, Christy. Hope you've been well as well. Always great to see you. Contender view. John, real quick, just to give you an update on what I'm seeing on the back end. We need one from Dave from Georgia after contender view. And then from there we grab David. So then we need Christian, Seth, the Hatchwinnick, Simon, Jesse, Jace. That's where I'm at. Contender view. Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. Next year in free agency, who do you choose between Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson, both of whom will be unrestricted free agents? Johnson is a little better, but Jewell is younger and cheaper. If I'm having to choose between those two, I'm taking Johnson, but it really is pretty dang close in terms of their relative value to the team. I just still think, just from an athletic perspective, he's not twitchy, but I think AJ provides you more ceiling than Josie, who's quite limited in what he can offer. But both are not spectacular, but very, very dependable, reliable, starting caliber linebackers in this league. And at the very least, starting caliber, 2-down guys that you can trust to fit the run, not get too out of position in pass coverage. But nevertheless, if I'm having to choose Zach, I'm taking AJ probably.
Well, if they're both UFAs, though, why would Jewell be cheaper? They'd be the same cost, which would be nothing. You have to negotiate. So I in that sense, would be taking Alexander as well. I think he's they're not great in coverage, but I think you can do more with him. I think he has more playmaker instinct, and he makes things happen, and he brings the energy to the defense. I don't see Josie Jewell doing that. I mean, he's a great run stopper, but AJ really is almost like the PG-13 Derek Wolfe. He has all the animation and all the intensity and the ferocity of Derek Wolfe, but a little, less of a potty mouth.
Sorry, my mic was being weird there. Team Jokic, a.k.a. Christian, good to see you, bro. He says, hey, boys, 2 weeks till the draft. What do you guys think is the most likely thing to happen at this point? Trade up for a QB, trade down, stay at 9. If it was between those three things, Christian, I'm still saying trade down, but to me it comes down to trade down or stay at 9. I am not projecting that the Broncos trade up.
That's the least likely thing to me, is trading up for a quarterback. And the second least likely to me is the Broncos drafting a quarterback. So right now, it depends on how the board breaks, I feel like. When the 7th, 8th picks come in, where those players stand, who's available, who's not, that will dictate whether Peyton stays at 9 or moves down. But I can tell you this right now, Chad, he has contingencies in place for both scenarios.
All right, we got Dave from Georgia coming up here, I believe. Unless I miss it. Oh, we got him. Here we go. Dave was on the show last night. It was really great to catch up with you, my friend, and just get to know you a little bit better. Appreciate everything you do for us and everything you mean to our community here. He says, I'm disappointed that Walker signed elsewhere. Defensive line depth becomes another big priority. Hashtag Broncos country. Hashtag let them hate. Yeah, it's definitely on there. Like, it's on the list of priorities. You don't want to ignore it, but let's just walk through it real quick. Starting trio up front, Shelby Harris, Mike Purcell, Draymond Jones. The depth as it stands today, Shamar Stephen recently signed, former Viking, former Seahawk. Sosa, a.k.a. McTelvin Ajim, all right, last year, 3rd-round pick, so the team has some pretty high hopes for him. And then, who am I missing? Deshaun Williams, who emerged last year as a real scrappy lunch pail kind of guy that you can really use in a pinch. So, it's passable to me. I think you could go into the season with those 6 guys as long as you stay relatively healthy. But I'm still with you, Dave, that in a perfect world, you want one more dynamic young guy that can help you maybe a little this year and develop.
Chad, they actually had that young guy we keep forgetting about, Isaiah Mack, who they signed this offseason. I think he might have been George Payton's first out-of-house signing, former Patriot and former Titan, I believe. I mean, he's a defensive tackle, but he can play 5-tech as well, 3-tech. He can move around the defensive line. And when you give Bill Kollar any sort of prospect, I mean, he's made everyone into what they are that's played for the Broncos, from Derek Wolfe to Shelby Harris. You give Isaiah Mack to him as well, that's another iron in the fire. So they're going to address that through the draft, Chad. They're going to add a defensive lineman, but as is right now, they can get by, and their starters alone are imposing.
Mack is built like a brick, house, 6'1", 300 pounds, undrafted out of Chattanooga 2 years ago. Spent time with the Titans, Patriots, and then signed by the Broncos. His stats in the league, let's take a quick look. PFR, Pro Football Reference. He's appeared in exactly 21 games over his 2 years in the league, 1 start with Tennessee in 2019. He's got a sack and a half on his resume. He's got, dozen tackles and a few QB hits. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm glad you brought him up, Zach, because I totally spaced his acquisition. But so many of these type of guys, when they're signed as kind of, not so much a reclamation project, but almost like a futures flyer, let's see what happens. More often than not, they don't shake out. But every once in a while, it turns into Shelby Harris. So you can't discount him at all.
I just remember this move was made like right after the season, and it couldn't become official till after the Super Bowl. So the Broncos obviously had eyes on Isaiah Mack, and they wanted him in the building to some extent. So not as a starter, not as even a key backup, but some guy to develop under Bill Kollar, and it's nice having him there. You never know what could happen.
We got another newer name, Zach, on Super Chat, and I'm not sure that I'm going to pronounce this even remotely close to how it should be pronounced. The Hatchwinnick. The Hatchwinnick. Appreciate that very generous Super Chat, my friend.
Thank you. Welcome.
Connect on Twitter. We'll keep tabs, keep the conversation going there, and we'll keep an eye out for any questions or topics that are on your mind here in the chat. Seth Harmon, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. And I just realized after, I think it was yesterday, I remembered that we are connected on Twitter. Recommendation, shorten that handle, dude. Like I want to say your handle's something, and then like a series of 6, 7, 8 numbers. My advice to anyone who has a handle like that, shorten it. Find a shorter handle because it's easier for guys like me, Zach, John, to know who you are. But Seth, love you, bro. What player do you guys think will exceed expectations the most? Zach, what's your answer?
Expectations are subjective. I always go to, in this kind of question, Draymond Jones, because I think not a lot of Broncos fans are expecting him to blow up this coming season. I think they think he'll be a solid starter. I think he has Pro Bowl, if not all pro upside in that defense. Exceed expectations. Jerry Jeudy's up there. I mean, considering the drop-filled season he had last year, I think he will blossom in year 2, might even be a 1,000-yard guy. But expectations are, like I said, subjective. It's what would be successful and what would not be.
I'm going to say Drew Lock, all right? And I'm going to say it with some confidence and with some authority as well. I really do have some optimism and some confidence that having 2 years in a row in the same scheme, even though we have our doubts about Pat Shurmur, even though at times last year we really scratched our heads schematically, are the Broncos running the right thing here based on their personnel? And a lot of question marks on the scheme, but still for Locke to not have to learn a new scheme this year, to have the same position coach year over year, to have the same play caller in his ear on game day, and all those factors, I think, plus you're getting Cortland back. It's another year throwing to Noah. It's another year throwing to Jerry and KJ. Alberto will come back at some point in 2021. I'm going to answer Drew Lock with some relative confidence and authority.
That's a really good answer, and I think the appropriate answer to the question is identifying the players that might be, doubted right now, that might not meet expectations. Because you look at the roster, everyone's pretty much set in stone right now. I mean, who could you pinpoint? I mean, Jawan James at right tackle, that's a wild card. I'm not ready to say he's going to exceed anything, though, Chad. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. I think Drew Lock is the best answer to that question because he is the biggest question mark on the team, and it's up to him whether they sink or swim this year.
Simon, one of our great superstars up there, north of the 49th parallel, proving that Broncos country is a state of being, baby. It's not a geographic location. Love you, Simon. He says, what's up, guys? If Trey Lance falls to 9, you have to take that man. 100% Lock gets 2021. But isn't Lance's upside too high if he falls to 9? Peyton is drafting for the long-term success of the Broncos, not for Fangio to keep his job. There's definitely some truth to that, Simon, what the last thing you said there, that as a GM, you have to balance both the short and long-term priorities in terms of what's best for your team. Sometimes those things conflict. And in this case, I'm sure there will be times for Peyton where he kind of has to lean one way or the other. Like, all right, this prospect I know can help us long-term. I don't think he's going to help us so much in 2021, but I'm going to take the chance, draft him, and vice versa. Hey, this guy, I'm not sure exactly what his long-term potential is, but he fits a need that we just got to have today. I'm going to go ahead and take him, roll the dice. But when it's all said and done, I still don't think, Zach, the Broncos take a quarterback. And I disagree, Simon, that Lance is such a no-brainer option at quarterback that if he's there at 9, like you just run the card down to the podium. There are some real questions with Trey Lance. Now, look, I've turned on the film. I've broken him down. I've looked at him. There is a lot. I mean, you can pretty quickly have your jaw hanging at the floor. And it's one thing that I really like that Scott Kennedy says with relative to level of competition is, does it really matter what the level of competition is so long as the player in question is dominating his respective level of competition? And Lance most certainly did that at North Dakota State. And there's a lot to like about the guy, but he's very one-year wondery. He's very raw still. He's very boom or bust. I'm sorry to tell you. He's not a lockdown, guaranteed superstar in the making, although he probably, that ceiling, that potential is there. I'm still passing on Lance if he's there at 9. I'm taking either the best trade offer I got to move back or the best blue chip guy, non-quarterback position available to me.
Simon, I'm not singling you out, but I think there is some sort of thought, school of thought in Broncos country that if Peyton saddles Fangio with Locke for the season, he wants Fangio to be fired, or he thinks that would be giving up on Fangio. It could be very well the case that Fangio went to Peyton and said, listen, I think this is the guy for this year, or should be this guy for this year. He should get another shot. I mean, he could have the support from the coaching staff as well. So there's no real guarantee that, in either scenario, a Trey Lance would come to save the day, because, again, that's the type of quarterback. We've mentioned this ad nauseum. That's the type of guy that needs expert elite level coaching and development. And the Broncos don't have that right now. They're very much a coaching staff in flux. It's the incumbent. It's the incumbent head coach, the coordinator, and the quarterback. And they're all running it back collectively. They're all going to either fail or succeed on their own. I don't see an independent variable added to that equation in the form of a quarterback, Chad.
And that's the thing, by the way, straightforward 07, who we got to know a little bit last night for the first time, jumping in with a super sticker to say, how's it going? Hey, it's going well, man. Appreciate your support. The one thing that people are, a lot of fans, a lot of media omit in their analysis of what's going to happen at quarterback and trying to project and predict, what Peyton's going to do, is what you just said. The fact that the Broncos held on to Vic, the fact that Vic held on to Shermer, the fact that Shermer held on to Shula, that dictates so much of what is the obvious thinking. All right. And so it's all about keeping the band together and one last swing at the plate, hoping and praying to the football gods that you get some luck from the injury bug. Because again, I really do. I think that's the only thing that I really worry about relative to this offense finally launching with Drew as the trigger man, is just a little luck on the health front. If Drew gets hurt again, which is very possible, I mean, he's now been hurt each of the seasons he's been a pro and missed time as a result. Barring that, I really think this is an offense that can do some things. You need a little luck, health bug, all that stuff. But nevertheless, Zach, I still think that that's the biggest factor people continue to miss out on. Now, if real quick, if Vic Fangio had been jettisoned when John Elway stepped up to the podium on Black Monday and said, hey, guys, I'm taking a step back. I'm going to be president of football operations only. We're going to hire a GM. If 2 hours prior to that, he had fired Vic Fangio, and then that new GM had come in, picked his own head coach, picked his own OC, picked all that stuff, and really starting from scratch, starting over, then I would be leaning significantly more toward all of these possibilities for a quarterback in the draft. But that's not what happened.
And also, the Broncos not adding a veteran. I mean, wouldn't you want the rookie to learn from a mentor? Wouldn't you want that guy in the building already? So the Broncos making no moves at quarterback, 95% of the fan base took that to mean George Payton will draft one. It could mean that they're leaving the position unchanged completely going into next season, and Locke is the guy. And Chad and I aren't saying it's 100%. There's no certainties in the draft. There's anything but certainties. But our feeling right now is that it will be Locke running it back in 2021. And like Woody Paige has reported, and mostly everyone else out there has reported, fairly, it's going to be a veteran backup behind him, not a veteran or a rookie usurping Locke this season.
Jesse Edrick, good to see you, bro. Appreciate your support. You have definitely become a bona fide superstar. And Jesse, if you'd ever like to come on the show, reach out to your boys and we can set it up. He says, if Trey Lance or Justin Fields is at 9, do they pull the trigger? Hashtag MHH. I mean, I hate to flog the horse till this poor thing is not only dead but disintegrated. I don't see it happening. I really don't.
Could very well happen, though. I mean, we're leaving that option open, of course, but we think it's unlikely George Payton will swing for the fences when he really only needs a ground rule double this coming season.
I'm going to butcher his name. I always do. Jeremiah Owos. Oh man, JOK. Let's just say JOK. The Notre Dame
Owusu Koromoa. I think I got it down.
There you go. Linebacker, safety hybrid. What is he? He's kind of a tweener. Eric Trickle, our senior draft analyst at Mile High Huddle, his number one top linebacker in this draft, relative to Jamin Davis, relative to Micah Parsons, relative to Zaven Collins, and some of the other studs, Baron Browning. He likes JOK the most. So that being said, Jace Fox, thank you for the super chat. Connect on Twitter. JOK is a better fit for us than Parsons. That may be true in terms of scheme. I do agree with you on that. I don't want the risk that Parsons comes with in coverage. JOK can cover and delivers hits. What do you think? Schematically, like the perfect immediate fit, I would probably agree with you on that, but I still think Parsons' upside dwarfs JOK. Now, I'm not the in the trenches every day, grinded out on film guy like Eric and so many of our great draft guys at MHH. That's I don't have time to do that stuff. I got to bring you guys the content. I got to write the articles, do the podcast, make the videos. That's what Zach and I are doing every single day. So we're not quite as rolled up in our sleeves, in it. I still think just on my study of both players, Parsons' upside is here, and JOK's is still pretty. I mean, it's up there, but I still think Parsons dwarfs it in a relative sense.
Yeah, and I'm not okay taking JOK at 9, whereas Parsons, I'm okay with that, Chad. Obviously, a trade back and grabbing Parsons is ideal, but you're talking about a guy in JOK that's better in coverage than Micah Parsons, and I don't think that's debatable. But as an overall linebacker, I think Micah Parsons is better. He's more of a prototype. He's more of a 3-down guy. He's more of a foundational piece of your defense than JOK is. He's more of a dime backer, a safety, tweener, linebacker weapon, and he's great for covering running backs, receivers, tight ends. It's what the Broncos need. But I believe, and I don't think I'm wrong here by saying this, you can teach Micah Parsons to cover. Vic Fangio, Ed Donatel, Reggie Herring, Chad, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, they can teach Micah Parsons to be a little better in coverage, or at the very least, hide those deficiencies and exploit his strengths. And the strengths of Micah Parsons are many, and they would make this defense from a top 5 defense, I think, into a top 3 defense.
Guys, real quick, we are at the 1 hour mark, and we got to keep it pretty tight tonight. John, let me just tell you real quick what I see. Obviously, we got Johnny here we're going to grab, and then we got Daniel, Dale, Connor, Willie again, and then we're good to dip on out. So let's grab Johnny, one of the co-hosts of the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast, alongside his best bro in the world, Isaiah, 1127, superstar from last night. We talked about Isaiah. Forgive us, Johnny. He says, not the only pod. Fall's talking about championing Drew. The Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast is a let him hate all day, every day. Drew Lock is our QB. Love you guys. # spirit animals. Yeah, forgive us, Johnny. Forgive us. Keep it up, dude. Keep rocking that. The secret to success with anything in life, including starting a podcast from scratch with no platform. Dedication. Just don't stop. Let nothing stand in your way. You'll feel your way through it. You'll bump your head. You'll, screw up here and there. You'll have your successes. Don't let anything discourage you. Don't let any negative feedback get in your head. Just be you. Just be Isaiah. Just be the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast, and stay dedicated every single day, every single week. And if you keep that nose to the grindstone, guys, it took us – Mile High Huddle has existed since 2014, and we had a lot of success early on. Don't get me wrong. All right. But the podcast, Zach, you and I were doing it for, a year and a half before we started doing it more on YouTube. And we were grinding away, and it was good. It was solid. We have 20 some odd thousand people that listen to our RSS feed as a podcast, on demand after the fact. But it was nothing compared just to the relative energy and juice that it has now. And if we would have at any point during that period gotten discouraged, Zach, or said, you know what, this guy didn't like my take on this, I'm going to take my ball and go home, we wouldn't have eventually stumbled onto this great, great platform, this great community, this great audience that we have. So just stay committed, bro.
And also stick to your guns. Don't give in to the mob that wants Lock on, or don't give in to something that you don't believe in, Johnny. If you're a Drew Lock supporter, if you're a Let Him Hate supporter, then say that proudly and say that loudly. I would have so many more followers on Twitter, and my articles would get more clicks, Chad, if I gave in to that mob mentality, and I refuse to. I will always be myself. I will always be independent and unique, because I feel like that resonates with the audience, and I think our audience at least can attest to that.
Guys, if you seek out any of the entrepreneurial kind of guru giants out there that are the philosophers in the field, they'll tell you that it doesn't matter, especially when it comes to anything creative, whether it's media, music, art, TV, podcasting, whatever, if it's a creative endeavor, right? That the one thing that no one out there in the world can compete with Zack Kelberman on is being Zack Kelberman. He's got the market cornered, for better or for worse, all right? Chad Jensen got the market cornered on being Chad Jensen, for better or for worse. So lean into being Johnny, lean into being Isaiah and let the chips fall. Daniel, good to see you, bro. Thank you for that super chat, my dog. Hey, fellas, been watching since the end of last season. Keep it up. I'm all for Parsons and maybe getting back into the first. Hashtag MHH, hashtag let him hate. That's really cool, Daniel. Appreciate you. Connect on Twitter, bro. Your thoughts on Daniel's super?
I would love this. And this is the scenario where I feel like George Paton could really thrive in if they move down, let's say, and grab Micah Parsons at 13, 14, 15, and then use that capital to come back up and grab, I don't know, anyone, Chad, Najee Harris, Jabril Cox, Jamin Davis, Kellen Mond, whoever they don't take in the first round with their first pick, they can take it with the second pick. So they can go inside linebacker corner, inside linebacker safety, inside linebacker offensive lineman, inside linebacker quarterback. That would be, I think, the move that's more likely for Paton is trade back initially, and then once he surveys the field and surveys the board and he has that extra ammunition, he starts to use that to move up for his other guy. And it might be, Chad, moving up in round one, late round one for Caleb Farley. So imagine this. You end up with Micah Parsons and Caleb Farley, who should be healthy by the time this season rolls around, the two of the best defensive prospects in this draft. That'd be pretty incredible.
Dude, that would be the dream. That would be the absolute dream. John's all about the Oklahoma State tackle, Tevin Jenkins.
I wouldn't mind
20, be a steal. I agree, dude. 9, little too rich for me on Jenkins at anywhere like 20 and beyond. I'd be all for it, dude. That guy is he's a stud in the making. And I think with Mike Munchak, good Lord, what he could become. Connor Klein, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. Are you on Twitter? I've tried to find you to shout you out, tag you after the shows and whatnot, but no luck. So if you're on Twitter, do one of these. Oftentimes, I got to remind people the handles. If you're already following us on Twitter, one of us, both of us, all of us, so many times the YouTube handle is different than the one on Twitter. We can't connect those dots without you doing this. Hey, it's me, it's Connor on YouTube, Connor Klein, and my handle on Twitter is, Sharpshooter72 or something, right? So make sure you do that, Connor. Hey, guys, how are y'all? Quick question. What's the draft pick in the first round that would really disappoint you? Also, how do you feel about a Hamilton trade? I think a Hamilton trade is foreordained by the football gods. It's probably in the best interest of the Broncos, best interest of Hamilton. So I'm all about it. But what would disappoint me? A quarterback would disappoint me. Just telling you the truth. I just don't think that's what's in the best interest of the Broncos today. All right. So that's my answer.
And specifically Mac Jones, he would really disappoint me at 9 or anywhere else. And Woody Paige, I'm not high on. There's a couple other prospects that I would want the Broncos to avoid. I can't remember Gregory Rousseau from Miami, the defensive end pass rusher. That guy has so much bust potential. Leave that for the later rounds. Go for a safer prospect in round one. But by God, please no Mac Jones.
Yeah, Anthony Wicks on Facebook. We agree with you. Like, this is the put up or shut up. There are no more excuses. You're going to get a mini camp of some sort. You're going to get a preseason of some sort. You're probably going to get a very traditional training camp. This is it for you, Drew. It's either this is your time to shine, man. And if you can't do it, it wasn't meant to be. And the Broncos got to spit you out. They've chewed you up. Now they got to spit you out. So good point, Doug. Tim says we need a plan B for right tackle. Guys, we humbly suggest you go read John Cronenberg, a.k.a. Buona Beast, his article that published 2-3 days back, talking about this very issue, some insurance for Juwan James, okay? One of his, I know he likes a few different tackles, but Rashawn Slater of Northwestern, that's who he champions for the Denver Broncos. The SI team publisher mock draft that we talked about last night had Slater gone well before the Broncos went on the clock, for what it's worth. So he might end up being out of reach, but there will be a few other guys. I mean, from Tevin Jenkins we mentioned to Christian Darrisaw. I'm trying to think who's that kid from Notre Dame, Zach Eichenberg.
Eichenberg, yeah.
He's a later, he's a late round 1, early round 2 type. But anyway, Willie, last one, bro. Then we got to go. I think Peyton likes Fangio way more than we think. I mean, if you listen to them, Zach, they're like, Lloyd Christmas and Harry Dunn. I mean, this is the bromance of all bromances. They're both surprised at how well they've gotten along.
We've heard that too, though, about Fangio and John Elway after Elway fired Vance. And, Fangio was more his age. He was more from his era. They got together. But you know what's going to dictate that, how much he likes him, is winning. If they win this year, he'll love Vic Fangio. If they lose this year, it's business. And that means buy Vic Fangio. Nothing personal. You didn't cut it here. It's time to go.
All right. I think this is the last one. From Daniel Dennis, another guy that has been really strong lately. Connect on Twitter, my friend. Appreciate you. At this point, I'm in love with Jamin Davis, Kentucky linebacker. He can't play the run, but his coverage is amazing. Why risk Parsons relative to his off-the-field concerns when Jamin is exactly what we need? I'll pick one bone with you on that, Daniel, and that is I think he can play the run. Coverage is probably more Jamin Davis's strong suit. That's his calling card right now. But, yeah, dude, I'd be all about it. At 9, probably not. If you traded back, definitely a target I'd be looking to land.
It's the same comparison to me, JOK versus Parsons versus Jamin Davis. I mean, you can target the guy that's better in coverage. You can target the guy specifically for what you're looking for, maybe at a better value. But Parsons is the best prototypical linebacker in this draft class. And he also can play inside or outside. He can be an edge rusher. He can be off ball, and you can teach him to cover. You can work through those deficiencies. I just think whoever gets Micah Parsons is going to get some sort of a value in the top 15 picks or so.
I was really Nick Kendall said something the other day on Broncos for Breakfast with Scott Kennedy and himself that he is reminded that Parsons reminds him of a young Devin White. Devin White's still young, but I mean a Devin White coming out in that, like if Devin White would have come out the year prior that he did, he came out in 2019, but if he would have come out the year prior, still a very talented, obviously gifted player on film, but still kind of rough and raw around the edges, lacking some football acumen. And a lot of that acumen, guys, when you see someone that jumps off the page when you're or off the screen when you're breaking down film and you go, dude, that's a smart football player. Like this guy's got some football IQ. Clearly, he's picking up on this. He's anticipating that. That is honed and developed through experience, right? That's how you become an expert at anything. That's how you really develop any part of your intellectual acumen. So Parsons could end up being that caliber player. I think he might even have a little more upside. He's a bigger, stronger guy than Devin White. So I don't know. Nevertheless, Zach, before we get out of here, one last thank you to the Facebook supporters and talk about what you got cooking for Sunday. And I'm going to pull up the winner for the giveaway from today's Huddle Up Pod Facebook page.
Sunday's going to be good. I'm going to keep you guys waiting until then. I want to just add one thing about Devin White. He really blossomed and bursted onto the scene this season, Chad. And not to take anything away from him, but he was benefited from playing with Levante David and playing with Shaq Barrett. What would Micah Parsons benefit from? Playing with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. So the similarities are definitely there. And I will say this, if I were to tell you, you can put Devin White in this Broncos defense right now, raise your hand if you would sign up for that. Raise your hand if you wouldn't sign up for that. I mean, I don't anticipate many people turning that down. It's the missing link for this defense, Chad, is a dynamic off-ball inside linebacker. It's the last missing piece. You add that, you have a top 3 defense that can take you and win you playoff games.
All right, I'm popping in the name right now. Got to spell it out. Here is the winner of this week's giveaway. Now, again, if you guys want to enter in to our weekly giveaway, a hat, a mug, a t-shirt, all you got to do is go like the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. Easy, simple to do. Today, the winner we're celebrating this week, Renato Ruiz Sanchez. Congratulations, Renato. Hit us up, connect with us. To claim your prize, all you got to do, send an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Tell us your t-shirt size in case we end up wanting to send you a tee and your shipping address. All right. So congrats, Renato. Appreciate you supporting us and following the page on Facebook. Shoot us an email.
We hope you like it, Renato. Thank you so much. And congrats.
All right, guys. With that, we got to dip out. So Zach, before I have you sign us off here, guys, follow on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. At Mile High Huddle. All right. John K, the producer, a.k.a. Buona Beast, on Twitter at John K, MHH. Zack Kelberman at Kelberman NFL. Myself at Chad and Jensen. Don't worry, guys. Tomorrow night, you got a fresh episode of Dove Valley Deep Divers. I'm sure diving deep on the NFL draft rapidly approaching. Saturday at noon, you got the Trickle Zone. If you're a Facebook supporter, more deep dive coverage, even deeper, for those of you that are really trying to get as in on the 2021 class and what's going to happen as possible. Sunday, of course, the Huddle Up podcast will be back at 6 Mountain, 8 Eastern, but Kelberman's Corner at noon Mountain time. So we'll see you all very, very soon. Mile high salute to our Super Chat superstars, our Facebook superstars, our Facebook supporters. Love each and every one of you. Have a good weekend, Zach, and sign us off, dog.
I remember just saying to you, I'm excited to start a new week of podcasting. That was Monday. It's crazy how fast the weeks fly, Chad. It's already Thursday and we're closing up for the week, but I had a great week with you as always. And John, thank you so much. Everyone out there, thank you so much for what you've done and your contributions and your interactions. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Thursday night. We will see you guys 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern Sunday night. And as Jeremy says there, Chad and Zach, my only Broncos. Listen, we appreciate you, Jeremy. I and Kim Becker will see you noon Mountain Time on Sunday for KK Kelberman's Corner, episode 14. Take care, everyone. Cece, we appreciate you. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.